Hello students, in the previous lecture I have told about the angular motion, about the rotational motion of the rigid body. So now today I am going to explain some terms related to the rotational motion. So see here, you can see I have already told about these terms in the previous lecture. Up to the moment of force I have explained. But you once again see here in translational motion there is a term displacement. In the rotational motion the term is angular displacement. It is theta, angular displacement. And suppose this is a body which is rotating about this axis. Here it is rotating about this axis, or you can say this is the axis of rotation. It is clear. Now, if you see the particle situated on this line, after time t, when it will rotate in anti-clockwise direction, what will happen? After some time, the position of this line, the body will become like this. It's clear. And the position of line will become this. Now, this line will shift from position OA to OA dash. If you see all the particles, they are displacing by the same angle. They are displacing by the same angle. What is the angular displacement of the body? It will be equal to theta. Same, all the particles of the body will suffer the same angular displacement in a given time. That is, angular displacement of body will be same as the displacement suffered by each particle. So, what is its unit? Unit of angular displacement, it is radian. And as we know that pi radian equals to 180 degree. Now, there is another term in linear motion, translational motion, there is a term velocity. Now, here there is a term angular velocity, which we denote by the symbol omega. Angular velocity, it is the rate of change of angular displacement. That is angular displacement per unit time, theta upon t. In the language of calculus, we write it as omega equals to d theta upon dt. Now see here, if this body is completing one rotation in the time capital T about this axis, body rotating one rotation in the time capital T in one rotation, completing one rotation in time capital T. So, capital T will be the periodic time of the body. Capital T will be the time in which this particle completes one circle. This particle is completing one circular motion. It is clear. This will be, that will be the capital T. It is clear. As already I have told that all the particles of the rigid body will move by the same angle in a given time. That will be the angular displacement of the body as well as of that of particle. And since all particles are moving same angle, moving by same angle about the axis of rotation in a given time, therefore all will have the same angular velocity. So omega equals to theta upon t. In calculus, we write it as d by dt of theta. Now see here, it is completing one rotation in time capital T. What will be the angle moved in one rotation? In one rotation, it will rotate by what angle? By 2 pi radian. By 2 pi radian. So, average angular velocity will be given by omega bar equals to 2 pi upon t, equals to 2 pi n. What is n? N is the frequency of rotation. What is t? It is the periodic time of the angular motion. It is that time in which one rotation gets completed. It is clear. What will be the unit of angular velocity? So it is in radian. This is in second. So it will be radian per second. Now there is one more term, angular acceleration. It is just like the acceleration in the translational motion. Acceleration in the translational motion means it is the rate of change of velocity. Here it is the rate of change of angular velocity. Alpha equals to delta omega upon delta t. If body angular velocity of body changing by an angle by velocity delta omega in a given time interval delta t. So we can write alpha equals to delta omega upon delta t. Now in calculus we write it as d omega upon dt. D omega upon dt. Now see here, suppose a particle is describing uniform circular motion or body rotating with a constant angular velocity. Constant angular velocity. Then you can see here, suppose this is a body which is rotating about this axis. It is rotating about this axis with a constant angular velocity. When it will rotate by a constant angular velocity, what will be? Every particle will describe the uniform circular motion. For example, this particle, it will describe a uniform circular motion whose center will lie here. Whose center will lie at the axis of rotation. It's clear. If this particle you take, it will also describe the uniform circular motion, and center of that circular path will be over the axis of rotation. So since the body is moving with a constant angular velocity, therefore their angular velocities will also be same. So what will you say about their acceleration? Angular acceleration. So angular acceleration will be 0. Alpha will be 0. And why it will be 0? Because body is moving with a constant angular velocity. It's clear. Now see here one more thing. When a body is rotating, then all of its particles will have the same angular displacement in a given time, as well as all will have the same angular velocity. But all will not have the same angular acceleration. Later we will see that all the particles are having the same angular velocity. All are moving by the same angle in a given time, but they will not have the same angular acceleration. Their angular acceleration will vary. It's clear if they are having any angular acceleration. In case if the body is moving with a constant angular velocity, then angular acceleration will be 0. So you can see here what is the unit of angular acceleration. So it is radian per second divided by second. So it will be radian per second square. Now one more thing that you already know, you have studied in the uniform circular motion, that when a particle is describing when a body is rotating, here when a body is rotating about an axis, then every particle is describing uniform circular motion. And when every particle will describe the uniform circular motion, what will happen? Besides moving about some angle about the axis of rotation, it will also cover some distance over the circular path. Besides the angular motion about this axis, the particle will also have a linear motion on along the circumference of circular path. Means this particle have angular velocity as well as linear velocity. And why it is having linear velocity? Because the particle is describing linear motion over the circumference of circular path. This is the relation which relates the linear velocity of the particle with the angular velocity. With the angular velocity. V equals to R into omega. What is R? R is the distance of particle from the axis of rotation. For example, here R will be the radius of this circular path. In this case, what will be R? R will be radius of this circular path. So you can see here, all the particles are having the same angular velocity, whether you take particle P or you take particle Q, all are having the same angular velocity. That already I have told. but the linear velocity will differ. What will be the linear velocity? Its linear velocity will be more because it is at farther distance from the axis of rotation. It is at a lesser distance from the axis of rotation. It is clear? Now, if you talk about this particle which is situated at the axis of rotation, this particle which is situated at the axis of rotation. So, for this particle r will be 0. R will be 0, therefore, its linear velocity will become 0. But what will be the angular velocity? It will remain same as rest of the particles. It will remain same as the rest of the particles. It is clear? No matter the particle is lying over the axis of rotation, it will have the angular velocity if the body is rotating. It is clear? So, this is the relation between the linear velocity and angular velocity. Angular velocity of all the particles will remain constant, but the linear velocity will not remain constant. You can see here, linear velocity depends upon the distance of the particle from the axis of rotation. Now, if you differentiate it with respect to time, when it will be differentiated, so dv upon dt equals to r into d omega upon dt. What is dv upon dt? It is the rate of change of velocity, that is acceleration. What is d omega upon dt? It is the rate of change of angular velocity, that is alpha. It will be equal to alpha. So, this is the relation between the acceleration and angular acceleration. It is clear? Acceleration and angular acceleration. Now see here, if omega is constant, then you know that alpha will be equal to 0, and alpha will be equal to 0, then A equals to 0. But what will be the direction of this A? This direction of this A will be tangential. Centripetal acceleration is not 0. It's clear? Here A means A tangential. It's clear? Suppose the angular velocity is varying, angular velocity is not constant. In that case, what will happen? This particle which is describing the circular motion about this axis, it will have centripetal acceleration which will act in this direction, as well as this acceleration, which is given by A equals to R into alpha. It's clear? A equals to R into alpha. So, when the particle is moving with a constant angular velocity, in that case, alpha equals to 0, A equals to 0. A equals to 0 means it is the tangential acceleration. There is no tangential acceleration. But since it is moving over the circular path, therefore it will have a centripetal acceleration. It's clear? So, particle will have the centripetal acceleration. Now, we are going to discuss the equations of uniformly accelerated rotational motion. Rotational motion means angular motion. Today we are discussing the kinematics part of the rotational motion. It is clear? Dynamics of the rotational motion we will discuss afterwards. It is clear? So, equations of uniformly accelerated rotational motion. So, see here, in the translational motion, you know that these equations are V equals to U plus AT. S equals to ut plus half at square. Then V square equals to u square plus 2as. Here uniformly accelerated translational motion means acceleration A is constant. Acceleration A is constant. Now when we talk about the uniformly accelerated rotational motion, then it means alpha is constant. Alpha will be constant. Means it is not zero, it is constant. You know that u is what? It is the initial velocity. Velocity at time t equals to 0. Here we have taken this velocity as omega naught. Velocity, angular velocity at time t equals to 0. Velocity at t equals to 0. Then what is v? It is the velocity after time t. So here we will take it as velocity, angular velocity, at time t. At time t equals to t. A is acceleration here. In place of that A, there is alpha. What is S? It is the distance covered in time t. So here this we can write it as theta. Angle moved by body in time t. In time t. Angle by which the body moved in time t. It's clear? So these are the symbols which we will use. So if you write this equation in terms of these symbols, so you will find that this will become omega equals to omega naught plus in place of A alpha into t. That is omega equals to omega naught plus alpha t. It is the first equation of uniformly accelerated rotational motion. Then if you write the second equation, then in place of S you will take theta. Theta equals to omega naught into t plus 1 upon 2 in place of A alpha. Alpha t square. So theta equals to omega naught into t plus 1 by 2 alpha into t square. It's clear? Then if you see the third equation in place of v, you will take the final velocity omega square equals to, in place of u square, you will take omega naught square. So omega naught square plus 2, in place of a, we will take alpha into theta. These are the equations of uniformly accelerated motion. Now we are going to derive these equations. So first you see the first equation. So here we have assumed that there is a body which is moving with a constant angular acceleration omega alpha. It is moving by a constant angular acceleration alpha and having the initial angular velocity omega naught. Let in the time t it rotates by an angle theta. Here we have assumed that let us consider a body which is free to rotate about an axis, which moving with a constant angular acceleration alpha. Let in the time t it moves by an angle theta, and after time t its velocity becomes omega. Its velocity becomes omega. Its initial velocity is omega naught and moving with a constant angular acceleration alpha. So you can see here, how will you derive the first equation? So first equation, as already we have derived in the first equation of uniformly accelerated motion. So how will you derive? So you can see here, what? Yes. Which variable? Which variable you will take? Here alpha equals to, we will take omega equals to what? D theta upon dt. It's clear. You can see here. So alpha equals to d omega upon dt. We will begin from this. For the first equation, we will begin from angular acceleration equals to rate of change of angular velocity. So what will be d omega? Here you remember that alpha is constant. Body is moving with a constant angular acceleration. D omega will be alpha into dt. Now integrating it in both the sides. When you will integrate, so integrating over the proper limits, integration alpha into dt. In left hand side, it is integrated over omega. Omega is what? It is the velocity. In right side, it is integrated over time. And time is changing from t equals to 0 to t equals to t. So I am substituting the limit. When you will substitute the limit, it will be equals to integral d omega equals to alpha. You can take out common because alpha is constant. Integral t dt. Now what is the limit of time? Limit of not integral t dt, it is only integral dt. Limit of time is time t equals to 0 to time t equals to t. Now you can see here, when time is 0, velocity is omega naught. When time is t, velocity is omega. Now what is integral d omega? What is integral dt? So as we know that integral dx equals to x. So in the same way, integral d omega will be omega. Integral dt will be equal to t. So it will be equal to omega naught into omega. That is alpha into t 0 to t. Now substituting the limit. So its value at the upper limit omega minus its value at the lower limit omega naught equals to alpha. Its value at the upper limit t minus. So it will be omega minus omega naught. Alpha into t. So what is omega? It will be omega naught plus alpha into t. This is the first equation of uniformly accelerated angular motion. Now we will see the derivation of the second equation. So you can see here, second equation is theta equals to omega naught into t plus 1 by 2 alpha into t square. So as we know that omega equals to what? It is equal to d theta upon dt. It is clear? So what will be d theta? We know that the angular velocity omega, it is equal to rate of change of angular displacement. So d theta will be omega into dt. Now from the first equation we can write omega as omega naught plus alpha into t dt. Now on opening the bracket, d theta will be equal to omega naught dt plus alpha into t dt. Now integrating this over the proper limits. So see here, when you will integrate, integral d theta, omega naught is constant, so you can take out integral dt, plus alpha is also constant, so you can take out integral t dt. In the right hand side, you will substitute the limit of time. So time is varying from time t equals to 0 to t because it is integrated with respect to t. That's why limit of time will be kept. Here you will substitute the limit of angle. So when time t equals to 0, body has not started moving. or it has just started moving at time t equals to 0. So what was angular displacement? 0. But after time t, what is the angular displacement? It has become theta, because we have assumed body rotates by an angle theta in the time t. Now integral d theta, just now I have told that integral dx equals to x, so integral d theta will be equal to theta. Limit is from 0 to theta equals to omega naught. Integral dt, it will be t, limit is from 0 to t, plus alpha, here limit will be t square upon 2, 0 to t. Now on substituting, integral t dt will be equal to, you can see, integral x dx equals to x to the power 1 plus 1 upon 1 plus 1, that is x square by 2. For detailed explanation, you watch my videos on differentiation and integration. In that I have explained in very detail. So from there you can see. So what will be this? When you will substitute the limit theta minus 0 equals to omega naught, it is t minus 0 plus alpha t square upon 2 minus 0, because t equals to 0, its value when time t equals to t and its value when time t equals to 0. So in place of t, when you will write 0, it will become 0. So this will be theta equals to omega naught into t plus 1 upon 2 alpha into t square. So this is the second equation of motion. It's clear? Now we will see the derivation of the third equation. So third equation, alpha, we will begin from alpha. Alpha equals to d omega upon dt, rate of change of angular velocity. Now we will rearrange the terms. So it will be d omega upon d theta into d theta upon dt. D theta and d theta cancel, so it will be d omega upon dt. Now what is d theta upon dt? D theta upon dt is omega. So omega into d omega upon dt, alpha. So what will be alpha into dt? It will be omega into d omega. Now integrating both the sides. Integrating, not, it is d omega upon d theta. You can see here, in place of d theta upon dt, we will write omega. This is d omega upon d theta. So when you will multiply it in d theta. On integrating in both the sides with proper limits. So it will be integral alpha into d theta equals to integral omega into d omega. Now you can see here alpha is a constant. It is constant angular acceleration. So integral d theta, integral omega into d omega. Now what is the limit of velocity, angular velocity? So it is omega naught to omega, and here it is 0 to theta. So when you will write alpha, integral d theta is theta, limit 0 to theta. Here what will be integral omega d omega? It will be omega square upon 2. Limit is from where to where? Omega naught to omega. So it will be alpha, when you will substitute theta minus 0. This will be equals to omega square upon 2 minus omega naught square upon. On further simplifying, it will be upon 2. It is clear? So you can see here, from here alpha into theta, it will be equal to omega square minus omega naught square upon 2. When you will further simplify it, it will comes out to be omega square minus omega naught square equals to 2 alpha theta. It's clear? Or omega square equals to omega naught square plus 2 alpha theta. So this is the third equation of uniformly accelerated rotational motion. Uniformly accelerated rotational motion, already I have explained that alpha will be constant. So now I am going to discuss a very important quantity which is used in the rotational motion and which is equivalent to the mass in translational motion. So see here, as you know that what is mass, what is the role of mass in translational motion? It is the measure of inertia. Measure of inertia. What is inertia? That you know, it is the inability of any body to change its state of rest or of uniform motion. Uniform motion of a body. It's clear? That is measured by the mass. Means if mass is more, then body will be more unable to change its state. Body will be more unable to change its state. It means greater force will be required to make any change, to bring the body from state of rest to the state of motion, or to change the velocity of the body. Now, in rotational motion, what is the measure of inertia? Here there is a, since it is rotational motion, so we call it as measure of rotational motion. Measure of rotational inertia. Rotational inertia. And it is measured by a physical quantity which is called the moment of inertia. Moment of inertia. In short, we write it as MI. It's clear? Means MI is equivalent to the mass in translational motion. Now, what is the rotational inertia? Rotational inertia means inability of any body to change its state of rest or of uniform rotation about an axis. It is the inability of body which is free to rotate. Which is free to rotate. It's clear? Inability of any body which is free to rotate to change its state of rest or of uniform rotation. Uniform rotation. See here, rotational inertia means it is the inability of body which is free to rotate about some axis to change its state of rest or of uniform rotation. Means more the rotational inertia, more will be the torque required to make the change. Exactly like here, if inertia is more, then greater force will be required to initiate the motion. greater force will be required to make the change in the velocity of already moving body. Similarly here, if rotational inertia is more, then rotational inertia is more, moment of inertia is more, both are the same terms. Moment of inertia or rotational inertia are having the same meaning. It is the inability of any body which is free to rotate about some axis to change its state of rest or of uniform rotation. Means if the body is having greater MI, greater torque will be required. As we know that torque is responsible for turning effect in any body. Turning motion can be produced in any body about some axis or about some point by applying the torque. It's clear about that I have explained in the previous video. So greater the MI of the body, greater will be the torque required. It's clear. Now see here, how will you measure it? So as we know that this is measured by the amount of matter contained in the body. Here it is measured by the mass as well as distribution of the mass about the axis of rotation. MI is measured by mass as well as its distribution. MI of a body which is free to rotate about some axis, which is free to rotate. It's clear. MI of a body which is free to rotate is measured by mass as well as its distribution about axis of rotation. Now one more thing, like mass, moment of inertia is also a scalar quantity. It is also a scalar quantity. Here we are talking about one body which is comprising by one particle. It is clear. It is having only one particle and it is rotating about this axis. It is the axis of rotation. Axis of rotation is this. So MI of this particle is defined as the mass of the particle multiplied by the square of its perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. MI of this single particle is defined as is equal to the product of mass of the body, mass of the particle to perpendicular square of perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. What is the mass of particle? It is m. What is its perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation? Is r. So m into r square. M into r square. This will be the MI of this particle. It is clear? Here this is a body which is comprising only one particle. It is clear? I equals to m into r square. Now see here, suppose there are number of particles in the body. There are number of particles in the body, then how will you determine the moment of inertia? So see here. Suppose this is a body which is having number of particles M1, M2, M3, M4 and this is Mi, ith particle, and suppose the axis of rotation I have taken outside the body. It's clear? It may be inside also. It's clear? So let its distance is r1, here its perpendicular distance is r2, its perpendicular distance is r3, its perpendicular distance is ri. It's clear? In this way. When the body will rotate about this axis, this is the axis of rotation, what will be? Every particle will describe the circular motion. It will describe the circular motion of radius r1. This body will describe the circular motion of radius r2. Here it will describe the circular motion of radius r3. It's clear? All are describing the circular motion. If you determine the mi of this body, it's clear? So mi of this body will be equal to the sum of mi's of the particles constituting the body. What will be the mi of the body? Sum of the moment of inertia of the particles which are constituting to this body. Means what is the mi of m1? m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square. It's clear? And so on. It's clear? This we can write as I equals to sigma mi ri square. What is sigma? Sigma means process of summation. Means we can say moment of inertia of a body which is free to rotate about some axis is equal to the sum of the products. Is equal to the sum of the products of masses of the particle and square of their perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. It's clear? What is the moment of inertia of a body which is free to rotate about some axis? It is equal to the sum of the products of masses of the particles and square of their perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. This way we can determine the mi of the particle. Already I have told it is a scalar quantity. Now what will be its unit? So you can see here what is the unit of mass? Kilogram. Unit of distance? Meter. So it will be kilogram meter square. It will be equal to kilogram meter square. It's clear? Now see here, there is one more term, angular momentum. Angular momentum, which we denote by symbol L or G. It's clear? So in translational motion, you know about the linear momentum. What is the linear momentum in translational motion? P equals to m into v. It is a vector quantity. It's clear? Now what will be in angular motion? In rotational motion, what will be the angular momentum? So first you see the formula. It is denoted by L or J. So you can write L. It's clear? Or you can write J. What is the counterpart of mass in rotational motion? In place of mass, which physical quantity is used in rotational motion? Mass is measure of inertia. Here it is measured by moment of inertia. What is the symbol of moment of inertia? Symbol of moment of inertia, you remember, symbol of mi. It is represented by I. It is clear? Into, in place of v, omega. That is L equals to I into omega. It is clear? This is the formula of the angular momentum. Now angular momentum is defined as, moment of linear momentum. Moment, like the moment of force. Moment of linear momentum. of particles constituting the body. As already I have told that when a body is rotate about some axis, then all its particles are describing the linear motion, except those which are lying on the axis of rotation. Those which are lying on the axis of rotation, they are describing only angular motion. But all other particles will describe the linear motion also. And when they will describe the linear motion, they will have some linear velocity, they will have the linear momentum. It is clear? This is defined as the moment of linear momentum. So what is the meaning of moment of linear momentum? As you know that moment of force, it is represented by vector r cross vector f. Moment of force we represent by vector r cross vector f. What is vector r? It is the radius vector of line of action of force from the axis of rotation. Or what is its magnitude? Its magnitude is equal to the perpendicular distance of line of action of force from the axis of rotation. So in the same way, moment of linear momentum is defined as vector r cross vector p. Vector r cross vector p. That is vector L equals to vector r cross vector p. It's clear? Now suppose here we have taken this body whose axis of rotation is this, and suppose this is a particle, here it is going in this direction. It's clear? So it will have the velocity in this direction. Suppose the velocity is this. So what will be its angular momentum? Angular momentum of this particle will be equal to vector r cross vector p. Vector p will be directed in this direction. It is clear? So it will be equal to vector L equals to vector r cross m into v. It's clear? M into v. It's clear? Now what will be if you make the vector velocity vector or momentum vector as this? Here suppose this is the velocity vector or momentum vector, because momentum will be directed in the same direction as the direction of velocity. So if you resolve this into two components, suppose this angle is theta. So what is its component in this direction? P cos theta. Component in this direction, in perpendicular direction, it will be P sin theta. It will be P sin theta. So it will be equal to P sin theta into, this is the vector r, its whose magnitude is r. So it will be equal to L equals to r into P sin theta. That way also we write. It's clear? Now see here, what will be its unit? Unit of angular momentum. So unit of angular momentum, you can see L equals to m into v into r. M into v, it is Newton second. Momentum, that is Newton second. It's clear? This is r in meter. That is Newton meter second. Newton meter second. This way we can write. This is the unit of SI unit of angular momentum. It's clear? Now see here, you can make one more unit from here. What is the SI unit of moment of inertia? It is kilogram meter square, and it is radian per second, kilogram meter square per second. Kilogram meter square per second. So that is also one unit. Now see here, now there is a term rotational kinetic energy. Rotational kinetic energy. So see here, Rotational kinetic energy, it is 1 upon 2. What is the kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is half mv square. So in place of mass, we will take I, moment of inertia. In place of V, we will take omega. So half I omega square. This is the formula of rotational kinetic energy. Now this formula can also be written in this form. We know that the kinetic energy is also given by P square upon 2m. It's clear? So here in place of P there will be L or there will be J, which we call as the angular momentum, L square upon 2I. L square upon 2I. This will be the rotational kinetic energy. Now see here, suppose there is a body which is moving, which is performing rotational motion as well as the linear motion. Body is performing the linear motion, means like this. You can see here what is the difference here. Here you can see that when this body is rotating, suppose this duster is rotating. So here body is describing the angular motion, but its particles are describing the angular motion as well as the linear motion. All its particles are describing the angular motion as well as linear motion. But the body is not performing linear motion. It is rotating at the same place. It is rotating at the same place. But if you see here, this chalk, here it is rotating as well as moving over the circular motion. Means it is having the rolling motion also. Or you can see the wheels of the bicycle. Wheels of the bicycle is rotating as well as moving on the ground. It is moving on the ground. So it is performing both the motions together. Linear motion as well as that angular motion. Linear motion, that is translational motion, as well as rotational motion. So such type of body will have the both kinetic energy, rotational kinetic energy as well as linear kinetic energy. Kinetic energy due to the translational motion. But if you see the motion of the door is fixed at the hinges, it is rotating about the hinges. It is not performing linear motion. It is not performing translational motion. The particles which are constituting the door, particles which are constituting the body, they are performing linear motion, but the body is not, on the whole body is not performing any linear motion. This I have explained by this example. When duster is rotated about this axis, you can see here, duster is only moving doing the rotational motion. It is not doing any type of translational motion. It is clear, because it is not changing its place. So if the body is having both the motions together, translational as well as rotational, then what will be the total kinetic energy of that body? Total kinetic energy of that body equals to kinetic energy due to the linear motion 1 upon 2 m into v square plus kinetic energy due to the rotational motion, that is 1 upon 2 I into omega square. It is clear? Now there is one more formula. As you know that power equals to force into velocity. Power equals to force into velocity. Here we write it as power equals to tau. In place of force, there is the moment of force which we represent by tau into omega. P equals to tau into omega. It is clear? This is the formula of power. It is clear? Now there is one law of conservation of angular momentum. Law of conservation of angular momentum. You can see here. As you know that law of conservation of linear momentum, if external force is not acting, then this remains constant, this remains conserved. It's clear. So in the same way, if the external torque is not acting, law of conservation of angular momentum if the external torque is not acting, that external torque equals to 0, then angular momentum J or L, it will remain constant. It will remain constant. And you can see here there is a formula relating this and this. F external equals to delta P upon delta T. So in the same way, here we can write in place of F there is tau equals to delta J upon delta T, or we can write in vector form in this way. So when tau equals to 0, you can see means delta J upon delta T will be equal to 0. This 0 means delta J, change in angular momentum is 0, and change in angular momentum is 0 means J is constant. It's clear? It means you can say that I into omega will be constant. To omega equals to constant. It's clear? So this is the law of conservation of angular momentum. If on any rotating body external torque is not acting, then its angular momentum about that axis of rotation will remain conserved. It will remain conserved. Means I1 into omega 1 equals to I2 into omega 2. This way. So you can see one example over the law of conservation of angular momentum. Suppose I have taken two heavy masses in my hand and standing on a rotating table. It's clear? In this way, rotating on the standing table. Now after some time I fold the hands. So when I will fold the hands, what will happen? The masses which I have holded, that will come closer to the axis of rotation, because the axis of rotation will be this. This will be the axis of rotation. So when I will fold the hands, what will happen? These masses will come nearer to the axis of rotation. Nearer to the axis of rotation means moment of inertia of these masses, which was earlier more, now it will be reduced. Means total moment of inertia, here suppose I2, here it is I1. So now I2 will be less than I1, because these masses have come closer to the axis of rotation. Now during this process, external force is not acting. External torque is not acting, therefore total momentum will remain conserved. Total momentum will remain conserved means product of I and omega will remain conserved. So we will find that now angular velocity, table will start rotating with the greater angular velocity. Means here suppose velocity is omega 1, here it is omega 2, we will find table will start rotating with the greater angular velocity, or I1 into omega 1 will be equal to I2 into omega 2. This. So in the next lecture we will do some numericals over this.